Life before the seed drill was hard. Plowing by hand was not only time-consuming, it also wasn't productive, and a lot of seeds were wasted. As the farmers plowed them, some would blow away, and others animals would eat. When they put the seeds, some would be too close to each other, and others would be way too far apart. Also, when they put the harrow over it, the depth of the seed was not accurate, and that would result in seeds that aren't fertilized, and so less quality produce, which to farmers meant less profit. And then the seed drill came. The seed drill was invented by Jethro Tull in 1701. The seed drill worked by digging holes in the ground and placing seeds into them. As well as that, it had a plow attached, which covered the seed with more soil, assuring that the seeds would get fertilized and not eaten by animals or blown away. It also had even spaces between each passage that eliminated the problem of too cramped or too spaced out seeds. Using a seed drill was efficient and without question consistent. The seed drill might seem like it was just one of those inventions, but the seed drill had a lot of impacts. It resulted in less jobs in the agricultural section because the seed drill did the work that farmers would do. More yield also led to prices declining and people being able to buy more food in the same price. But despite the fact that people were paying less for food, farmers still profited highly because the productivity level was much greater than before the seed drill was invented.
Okay, so before the steam engine was created, power was provided by animals, wind, and water. And also mines had flooding problems, like if they went deeper into the mine. So the original methods of getting the water out So the steam engine was, the first steam engine was created in 1698. It was improved in 1712 by Thomas Newcomen. How it works is like there's a cylinder which fills up with steam and pushes the piston up, which kind of like sucks up all the water like a vacuum. Yeah. So the impact it had on people's lives was that it made their lives easier, and it also saved them a lot of time and a lot of money because it was also expensive to like kind of get the water out of the mine, and it also solved the problem of the mine.
Steamboats. Before trains, cars, and airplanes were invented, rivers were used for travel. But they were slow, but this all changed because of the invention of steam-powered boats. Steamboats can travel at a very high speed of up to 5 miles per hour. It soon dominated the waterways. In 1787, a man named John Fitch invented steamboats and successfully made his first trial. However, Robert Fulton created the first steamboat itself. So nowadays, Robert Fulton is known to be the inventor of steamboat, while John Fitch was actually the first. Although steamboat ruled the travel and trade in 1800s, they were eventually replaced with newer forms of transportations. In 1880, cars, airplanes, and around 93,000 miles of tracks overtook steamboat's business. Soon, steamboats became obsolete. Steamboats no longer travel the nation's waterways, but it will still be remembered as the most advanced technology in the United States of America in that century. Thank you.
Okay, so before the flying shuttle, weaving was time-consuming. Weavers could not weave large stretches of cloth, and the old weaving machines required lots of time to operate. The old weaving machines also needed lots of labor. You would literally have to bend down, take the old shell in one hand, throw it across to one side, and then catch it and pull the sweat down. And you have to keep on repeating that. furthermore, it wasn't exactly the most productive machine that was built for weaving. So the flying shuttle was invented by John Kay in 1733. His machine enabled faster weaving. Whatever. His machine enabled faster weaving, which could help people get more cloth made. His machine also made it easier to weave long stretches of cloth. Finally, this machine could be automated, so as long as someone said to refill the shuttle with yarn, it could weave without the necessity of a human. Finally, after the flying shuttle, there were new inventions, such as the spinning jenny, the water frame, spinning mule, etc. There was a huge cotton boom that happened after the flying shuttle was made because the demand for cotton substantially increased after the weavers began to weave faster. This also led to the birth of the factory system. Well, not exactly the birth, but it led to the factory system being born. Well, because oh, whatever. Sorry.
So before the agrarian revolution, farmers in England didn't use any additional nitrogen except the dirt underground. They clothed it to make it more healthy, and then planted the seed. That caused something that because the population was great in England, people had less food because the farming was very ineffective. But then in the 1700s, additional nitrogen was actually added, and that additional nitrogen actually came from your livestock. What they did was they fed their livestock and took their manure that was full of rich nitrogen and added to their crops that helped the crops grow faster and make their productivity faster to make more food for more people. So in the mid 17th century, legmus, or this plant was used to make productivity even more faster because it was even more additional nitrogen to the nitrogen they already had. And what they used of the plant was only the roots because they had a lot of bacteria on the root, and they use this to make the crops grow fast.
Okay, so the person who created the water frame is Richard Arkwright. He was born in 1732 and died on 1792. To make the water frame, he worked with the clockmaker John Kay, and they wanted to make something that would boost thread making and yarn making. So the demand of cotton thread and yarn was increasing, so they had to think of a way to make more, and they started the project in 1762, but it wasn't really effective when they tried, and it was kind of a fail. But then they kept on trying and trying to make a better a way to make yarn and cotton thread quicker. The effects were that it was more efficient, as in there was no faults. Well, not really that no faults, but there was less faults, and it was able to make a lot of varieties of yarn and thread sizes. At first, it wasn't able to make more than one type of thread, but then the spinning mule was combined with it and made more.
Selective animal breeding. What is selective animal breeding? Selective animal breeding is when animals are bred for specific traits or characteristics such as size, color, and temperament. When was it invented? It was invented during the 18th century, close to the 1770s. Why was it created? Selective animal breeding was created in order to improve the quality of animals, and it was also caused by low production. Selective animal breeding was established as a scientific practice by Robert Bakewell. He did this by crossing different breeds of sheep to select their best characteristics. This is also known as breeding in and in.
Animal breeding made only certain animals to mate, which enabled them to produce offspring with a particular characteristic. Fake wool had its first success in 1775. Effects. Before selective animal breeding in 1710, the average weight of a sheep was 28 pounds. Afterwards, in 1795, the average weight was 80 pounds. Three benefits of selective animal breeding during the Industrial Revolution was that sheep produced more wool of better quality, cattle produced more beef, and new types of horses enabled people to travel.
So the spinning jenny was invented in 1764 by James Hargreaves. It was invented because there was a high demand for cotton at the time. So there needed to be a way that they make more cotton because the demand was so high. So the spinning jenny was created, and that increased the production rate of cotton. And so yeah. Okay, so it worked it had a metal frame and 8 spindles on one side and 8 rovings, which is basically like a bunch of fiber, kind of. So the rovings were connected to a beam, and when the roving the fibers were extended, 2 kind of metal or wooden things clasped together, and then when released, it would go onto the spindles, and then that would be like cut thread. So this item went out of use in 1810 because of the creation of the spinning mule, and it was said to be one of the biggest inventions during the Industrial Revolution because it really sparked the cotton industry and the cloth industry. So, yeah.
This is the spinning mule, also known as Crompton's mule, named after its inventor, Samuel Crompton. Samuel Crompton spent around 6 years working on the spinning mule. The spinning mule was invented in 1779 in Lancashire, England. Samuel Crompton invented this because he realized that weaving wasn't efficient. He was influenced to create the spinning mule by the flaws that he saw in the spinning jenny. He noticed that the spinning jenny produced string that was weak and kept breaking. Samuel Crompton made the spinning mule out of wood. He combined the moving carriage of the spinning jenny and the rollers of the water frame. He used the rollers of the water frame to twist the thread, and used the moving carriage of the spinning jenny to stretch the thread. The carriage was driven by a water loom. First, there were 48 spindles. Later, each carriage had 1,320 spindles and was 46 meters long. Those are the rollers and the moving carriage. After the spinning mule was invented, spinning cotton became more efficient. The first spinning mule that Samuel Crompton invented could produce 1 pound of 60 hanks of yarn a day. 1 hank is equal to 840 yards. The spinning mule had control over the weaving process, and it could spin fine, strong, and soft yarn. First, the spinning mule was only used to spin cotton, but then other fibers were used.
Okay, so this is like the power loom, and wait, it's different on my book there. So people used to use their hands to loom stuff, and it was a lot harder. And then they needed everyone wanted more faster looming material, so they could pay their worker. They could have less workers, and then pay them the normal workers less, and then have it cheaper. And then and it uses the steam engine. And it's faster for looming because there's only one guy and you can do a lot more jobs of it. And it's then you can have a lot less people in the factory and have some of these machines just even back there. Okay, so then in fact there's more money for the factory owners because there are less workers, so the production went up, so it will be cheaper for the buyers, and